The area-wide mitigation, I think we have to wait for some in public excluded stuff before we do it. So we'll move on to item number 16, which is the proposed exchange of reserve land on Broomfield Common.
Plus we have number 13 in the supplementary, which is the report from the Environmental Commission.
Number 13
is
is...
in the supplementary.
Oh, we'll come to it in the supplementary, because otherwise I have to find it.
Motor through a few minutes.
So there's 13 in the supplementary, but we'll come to it when we do the supplementaries. Okay? There's item 13 in the supplementaries, but we'll come to it when we come to that big pile of pink, or white, actually, white. Okay, so we're moving on to item 16 in the main agenda, the proposed exchange of reserve land in Broomfield Common, which was the subject of one of the deputations this morning. Terriers. Okay, shall we move on to item 17 while we wait for him? Except there's nothing in it.
Okay, we haven't formally moved this one from the Acting Chief Executive report, so that was number 2.
Okay.
Accessible City.
Okay, so moved Yanni. Sorry, just thought I'd try. Moved Tim and seconded Jimmy. This one. No, it's one that we've forgotten. Yeah, it's from the Chief Executive report. Okay?
Can I just be clear that this is actually a council-led project rather than a CCDU-led project? My understanding from the cost share and responsibilities is that this is actually Sarah-led.
That's an interesting question, and because I think we'll get Mike Teelan to answer it because he had to answer it the other night. Gotcha. Come down here and answer that question. This is the Accessible City. Who's actually running it?
Well, in practice, it's a sort of mixed and joint. So it's the classic,
Hybrid.
Mixed grill. We have a bit, they have a bit, and we share bits. So that's the most practical answer I can give. So because they are a series of integrated projects, so we are doing that in cooperation, but particularly on the matters that the first phase matters that Council resolved on the other week, we are leading the consultation on those.
And so it's a slightly interesting and different form of public consultation.
Yes, because we've got the situation where we have an approved recovery plan document, and that has a legal status and we can't be inconsistent with that, but we also have certain obligations and powers that remain with the Council under the Local Government Act to consult. So we are going to have to consult with our community in a way that allows them to meaningfully engage, but fundamentally we still have to give effect to the outcomes of the recovery plan.
So there are some difficulties with this.
Yes.
Yep, Yanni.
So we've spent over half this meeting sitting here listening to concerns that people have that are actually related to the government, decisions that the government are making. I'm really clear that this was actually a Crown-led project, phase 1 of our Central City Transport Plan. I can't see why we would be doing this. If all we're going to do is sit up and have hearings and listen to people and then tell them, sorry, like the Cricket Oval and Hagley Park, we can't do anything in response to what you're saying, then why would we want to put ourselves in that situation?
It's a very good question.
This is just goes to the core of having a good partnership with government. Let's be really clear about what we're doing, and I don't want to approve this going out until I'm clear over what it is where actually people can be consulted on, and why we should be doing it when government are imposing this on our city.
Okay, it's a very good question. Do we have to do this, or is if we don't do this, what happens? Does the government actually engage in any meaningful way?
I think that that would be a decision of CCDU about how they would do that. I mean, while they could do that, and this is where it does get legally complex, we still have the obligation under the Local Government Act. If Council was of a mind to say, actually, let CCDU lead that consultation, then I think that the necessary action would be for the government to use Section 27 of the Act to basically modify our responsibilities so that we don't have to comply with the Local Government Act provisions in respect of these, and they could, as Councillor Johansson has suggested, lead whatever consultation they liked on that process.
And the downside of that is that we get no sense of what people want in the central city for the area, for the time when CCDU may not be with us.
Well, yes, that's true, but CCDU, or those changes once made, the city's unlikely to in any short term try and reverse those, because the engineering of changing a one-way street system or something like that is quite complex.
Tricky, yeah. Okay, so in a way, Mike, there is a choice about whether we do this or not, and it's whether we choose to do some limited consultation with all the constraints that are on that, or whether we choose to do none, which is...
And I think if we choose to do none, we need to send a signal back to CCDU to say that we aren't choosing to consult, and perhaps, if that's the will of the council, we can quickly...
No, I wouldn't assume that.
No, but what I was going to say is if it is the intention of council, then we could craft a resolution that allows us to go back and talk to CCDU about them leading that process and around whatever statutory changes they need to make that happen.
Okay.
We've just got this as part of the Acting Chief Executive report. I don't know if we've got a full report on the agenda. I haven't been able to find one. So actually, what I want is actually a full report over who's doing what the parameters are, because approving just to go out to public and stakeholder engagement on a project without any detailed information about what it is we're actually having the conversation about doesn't sit well with me. I know we've got...
Okay, let me just test that,
Yeah.
Yanni. Is there a time imperative on this?
There is a time imperative in that if we are going to... the fundamental projects which are mission critical to the city are getting any changes done around Hospital Corner and Lincoln Road in time so that the physical works are done before the Cricket World Cup starts to bite into that area. The other ones are around Chewham Street and Manchester Street in respect of the timing with the bus exchange. Council had a full report and adopted the amended Phase 1 projects last month, and so the consequence of that is we go out to consultation.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Is there a comment from others? Tim?
I have to follow on from what Yanni's saying. If we go out for consultation and the expectation from the public is that we are going to listen to and raise and follow their concerns in a process that is being led by CCDU and that ultimately is driven by CCDU and the final decision is by CCDU, aren't we raising the community's expectations which we cannot fulfil?
I think you have to actually go back to the previous item. It's no different to consulting on a bylaw in some respects. We can consult on a bylaw and seek the community's views and seek to make recommendations, but we can't, if the community come back and say, let's take legal highs. We simply do not want legal highs in our city. We cannot reach that decision as council because that's repugnant to the law. We're in the same situation here. We can consult, we can get people's views, but if people say to us, well, we want to oppose this going one way, the only answer we can legally or legitimately give is actually no, you can't, because there's a recovery plan that will make this one way. So there are always going to be boundaries and limits to our consultation.
But Mike, with that example, we were able to restrict the placement of outlets, whereas in this instance, we may not even have that.
But I suppose, and that's around the focus of what consultation we do. So it's around trying to understand the needs of affected parties and landowners so that we can work into the detail of whatever is done to say, well, we can have this amount of parking here, or we'll have this restriction here, or we'll rephase the intersection in this way because we can identify some needs. So consultation is important in terms of of having that dialogue with the community. But I think, as the Deputy Mayor has said, we have to be very careful and clear about the limits and opportunities we have to influence the outcomes. And as long as we frame that consultation correctly, then I think we're fulfilling our duty.
Glenn.
I've got a couple of comments about this. I guess my observations since the CR legislation was introduced, this is my view, is actually it's served to put us at judicial risk. And we've copped it big time on things such as the, well, I can think of a few examples where we haven't consulted as required under the LGA. So that's one point. But the second, wouldn't you agree, though, that actually if we take the public on board, we actually find it, we obtain some sort of leverage and we actually can influence the outcomes. And we see this, I think, over, no media here, things like the stadium. So that's starting to lose traction, the rugby stadium. So don't you think that, you know, actually it is important to have the...
Starting to. It's lost.
Well,
Sorry.
So I'll just ask Richard. So when we adopted the full report on the phase 1 transport project, so we moved to consult, but this one was excluded because it was tied up with the Manchester Street.
This one, through you, Madam Chair, this one was specifically excluded because at the time the council we put our original report up, council was still considering legal action in relation to the Majestic. So obviously we didn't want to seek council approval to go out to consult on widening Manchester Street, whilst council on the other hand was still considering pursuing legal options in terms of retaining the Majestic building which is on Manchester Street. So that's the reason why it was specifically excluded. Council has since got legal advice. It's my understanding that they are not going to pursue that option of challenging CCDU's decision to demolish the Majestic building, and now what we're trying to achieve through this is to really put Manchester Street back on the consultation agenda.
So in that context, Manchester Street's catching up with where council got to on the other phase 1 projects a month ago.
Yep.
And I think from a staff point of view, we agree with you, we should be out there consulting, but I think what we have to do is that we are working with two distinct pieces of legislation which don't automatically fit particularly well together. And I think if we're going to be fair to our community going out, we need to give them a reasonable opportunity to have a say whilst being clear about the limits to what that say practically can deliver.
And I think that's the difficulty. I can totally understand why people are sort of annoyed about this, because when we mean public consultation, we actually mean listening to what people say. This one is going to be confined in how far it can go, and it's kind of a consultation that's not as meaningful as you would wish it to be. The difficulty is if you ask nobody, you don't derive the benefit of all the people who've got businesses on that corner, who see the traffic flow there and who've noticed the patterns of traffic behaviour in that street for 20 years, which is incredibly useful in any sort of planning document. So I can totally understand people's annoyance about this. My inclination is always to go with consultation, even if it's limited, because you always learn things. I'm just so looking forward to the day when we can actually have control of the central city back again, and not pretend that we have any say in it as we are at the moment, really.
I'm really open to us doing engagement with our community. I welcome that, and I would love to be able to do that. But what we don't have in front of us is a report that sets out timeframes, sets out the designs, sets out the concept, sets out the scope of what we can talk to them about. And that's where I think we've gone wrong previously, because we go out and we're not clear. The other bigger question actually...
Well, can I suggest that we remedy that we improve in general concept proceeding to this, and that when that report is ready, it comes back to the council prior to going to the public.
Yeah, can we get a report
that
back
okay, Mike?
on what this consultation engagement will look like, timeframes?
Well, let's because these guys have got a time limit, as they always have whenever anything comes from next door. Let's actually approve the concept in general. What Yanni would like to see is the more specific form of the consultation prior to going to the public. I can't imagine that's a problem.
No, so we have so the capital program guys are basically developing that process at the moment. We have a report going to the Yarni's Community Board, I think, in 10 days' time.
Oh, it's a briefing to the Hagley Ferrymead Community Board.
So we can easily brief that board at that stage about the process and the timeframes that we're proposing.
And are you guys okay with that just going to the community board? Or do you want it coming to the Environment Committee as well?
I'm not saying the Environment Committee should come.
Come
I guess
to-
we are stuck with the time frame. We seem to be stuck all together with this. So
We are.
I'm actually not happy with the process at all.
Okay, so we've got it open for debate. Yep.
Yep.
Sorry, I think, were you next, Paul?
Just seeing some documentation from historical meetings. We're going out on the Northlands and the Riccarton transport hubs, which is actually a Sarah-led project. And we're expected to pay for it, but it's their project. So this is almost in the same vein. It's quite bizarre. I mean,
Yeah, nobody's debating that. Nobody's debating the situation is bizarre. It's just what do we do about this specific one is on the table
well,
at the
we
moment.
need to know exactly what we're actually going to. We do need
Right.
to know exactly what we're actually going out to consult on.
Okay, that's fair. I've got Phil, Tim, Jimmy.
I think we should just say no to this, really. Like, this is really what gives consultation a bad name. There's so much consultation going on. It's called consultation to death or by death or whatever. But it just isn't working. And if we're not clear about the guidelines and what we're doing, I just think let's step aside, let them do it. Like, we've got enough to do without this. It would be nice if it was better, but it isn't.
They're so friendly.
Council's already resolved to go out on consultation on these matters. This is the only one that's catching up, as Richard explained. So we actually have a resolution to consult. So sorry, Phil, I should have picked that up before you launched into that great speech. But so at the moment, we do have a resolution to consult for everything but this one particular project. So we're adding this one to the mix. So you can probably make a unique decision about this one if you choose. Otherwise, the issue may be more about saying either you want to rescind that previous resolution, which requires us to come back and report to you again, or it is about actually informing councillors and or the board specifically about the program of consultation that we wish to undertake.
Okay, Tim?
I think, as you mentioned before, it's going to be, the key is the clarity of what we are going to consult on. Now, we've passed a resolution that we are going to consult, but how we consult, could CCDU lead the consultation and we kind of fit in with them and be very clear and specific about the areas that the council is able and only able to consult on. Because I do not want to be in a situation to raise people's hopes and expectations totally to turn around and say, well, that they've been totally cheated with the regards and totally devalued with the regards to the consultation. Because I think that is crucial. As Phil said, there is a lot of consultation going out there, but where is it actually getting people?
I suppose I see that slightly problematical in that what we're doing is we're in a practical sense, we'd be asking CCDU to lead the consultation. We'll be standing in the wings saying, well, we're only talking to you about this little bit and we can't really influence the outcome, which isn't sort of a particularly great message to give our community. I think the reality will be that if the council shows any unwillingness to take hold of that responsibility, I think CCDU would just take the whole thing over, and my view will be they'll be doing as limited consultation as they can.
Yep, I think that's a very fair assessment. Jimmy?
Because based on the stuff I mentioned earlier, council already approved, to go to the consultation. But right now, we need to gather is kind of the consultation document, which including the kind of concept design, the time frame or detail, etc. But there's a draft, can report to the either like Star mentioned to the Hagley Ferrymead Community Board and also Environment Committee all together, then to go ahead. Otherwise, we already approved to have a consultation.
Okay, can I make a suggestion to move us forward? otherwise I think we're going to be here at 10 o'clock tonight. And that is that the council approve, in principle, proceeding to public and stakeholder engagement on this, and that the specifics of that consultation go to the Hagley Ferry Community Board and back to the Committee of the Whole. When will you have that, Mike?
Well, I think in a practical sense they're hoping to begin actual consultation within about 2 weeks.
Okay, so is there a Committee of the Whole next week?
No. Well, I mean, we've just got a bit of a hole at the moment. We've got no no, yes, thank you. No council until I think the 17th of next month. So,
but there is a Hagley Ferry
But there's a Hagley Ferry Community Board, which, and we're quite happy to, I mean, we can ask Capital Program to make sure all councils are circulated with that consultation program.
Okay, can I suggest that as perhaps a way forward that we could try?
A second bit to the resolution. I mean, that just B says, note that this project is part of the CCDU-led phase 1 of the accessible transport plan, and we seek clarification from staff over who has what responsibility.
Well, that will be circulated in the specific information, won't it?
Can be.
Can be?
But we've already had one briefing put off at the community board because they didn't have enough information. So,
but they're saying they can do that.
right. So we can get a list of the phase 1 projects, who's leading it, and what each organisation's responsibility is.
Is that okay, guys?
That's fine. Can I just also comment though that, you know, and I know unfortunately it tends to rub differently at different times, but sometimes leading and following and collaborating and working out who practically could lead better than who officially might lead better is actually part of the mix as well. So we're happy to come back on that material, absolutely.
Okay. Well, they're happy to do that, so I don't need to include it in the resolution.
Happens because
no, we've got
because what's been happening is
that.
we've been spending a whole bunch of
They've
time.
undertaken to make it happen, so let's see if we can get this moving on. Is there general agreement with this, or can I put it and just, those in favour please say aye. Those opposed? I declare it carried. And do you want your vote recorded? Yanni, Phil. Okay, I declare it carried, and that then we are back on to